Oh, that was lovely. Thank you, guys. It's greatly appreciated. And I will get Rob to start every intro presentation henceforth and then bring me on stage. It'll certainly make things good. Also, I want to see this energy in that now really start translating in 29. I mean, I think this evening I want to start by saying welcome to Dewpoint's 2019. We're still at the beginning of this year, if you can believe it. I believe it. It feels like January to me. So we can still be saying Happy New Year and welcome to 2019. But it has to be Dewpoint's 2019 this year. Folks, again, just watching through the course of this evening, normally I MC, but it was wonderful to sit and actually watch it roll out as Rob MC'd tonight and to see the stories, just a few, just 3 stories of wealth engineers that are changing their lives again. And I sit at my table, again, just asking the question, what are South Africans doing if they're not doing Dewpoint? What are they doing? What are they doing? But, you know, don't cheer yet because I'm looking at you guys too. And I'm looking at you going, but you were on Monday telling me, no, you've got this problem and that problem and this problem. And I'm going, what are you doing if you're not doing Dewpoint this year? Guys, we launched Dewpoint in 2016. That was 3 years ago. Rob and I had been working on it the year before as well. And in the last 3 years, so much has happened that the world is really a completely different place today than it was 3 years ago when we launched. Let's just think about what's happened in just the last 36 months. We've had 2 presidents. What else have we seen? We've seen our state captured, have we not? We've seen BMW, Opel, and Chevy leave South Africa. We've seen the Oppenheimers sell the shares in their company they started in South Africa 131 years ago and leave the country. We have seen Rio Tinto and Anglo pull out of and start the process of pulling out of South Africa. We have seen South Africans' take-home pay drop to the lowest level in the last 2 decades. We've seen unemployment rise from 7 million to 10 million in 36 months. In 36 months. We have seen income taxes, the taxes you pay every month, rise by more than 5%. We've seen petrol rise to nearly 16 Rand a litre. Do you know that 10 years ago, when I returned from a stint overseas, petrol was less than, I think it was about 5 or 6 Rand, wasn't it? It was 7 Rand back then. Now it's 16 Rand. And we've seen for only the second time in its entire history, VAT increase. And you know, all the while, who have we been watching? We've been watching our neighbor Zimbabwe fall further into a hole we thought they'd reached the bottom of already. And what does that herald for us in South Africa? We've seen our lights and water turned off, and then turned back on again, and then turned off again. You know, it actually defies belief that while the flames of collapse are licking over the edges of this pot that we're all boiling in, there are still South Africans out there that haven't yet realized the crisis that they are in. What are we doing about it, ladies and gentlemen? What are we doing about it? Well, this evening, I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing about it. Ladies and gentlemen, while the light of hope is starting to dwindle in the hearts of South Africans, we here this evening have a very privileged and unique position. We get to be the people that take the hope back to South Africans. You know, in 2015, when Rob and I sat down to design Dewpoint, we had one core vision. We wanted to create a financial tool that every single South African could use to rescue themselves from financial crisis and build for themselves a freedom they could not have built anywhere else in the South African economy. At the time, I coined the phrase Dewpoint, the most in-demand commodity in the country. Some of you who were with me right at the beginning will remember me saying this. I never knew how much in the next 3 years the demand would rise by. I mean, we always say, the comedians, if you ever listen to the comedians, they say, we don't have to write our own stuff, we just watch the politicians. They write it for us. All right? And it's been exactly the same thing. The economy has collapsed in ways we could not have anticipated and driven the demand up for a tool that will save individuals in South Africa. The demand to such a feverish pitch right now that 2019 can be nothing other than Dewpoint's year, here and now. So, we have this crisis. How have we at Dewpoint responded to the crisis? Well, over the last 3 years, Dewpoint has raised the flag of income you can earn independently with control returned back to you. Control of your wealth, control of your future, and control of your freedom. Freedom of, what do we call them? Freedom of wealth, finances, freedom of time, freedom of mind, and freedom from this crisis. For 3 years, you have seen us innovate new ways and tools of getting Dewpoint's message to everybody. Evenings like this offer us the opportunity, all of us, to have a look around and to realize how our success has started to take root. We look at the individuals that you've seen coming up on stage and the ones sitting and talking to you, and we realize, hang on, if these guys can do it, so can we. You see, Dewpoint doesn't separate. It doesn't select who can and who can't. And it does not prejudice. In South Africa today, do we know of anything that doesn't prejudice? Again, we can thank our politicians for that, can't we? We're so prejudicial. And yet at Dewpoint, there's no prejudice. Everybody is enabled. Everybody is empowered to succeed with the Dewpoint tool. Do we see, ladies and gentlemen, do we really see what it means that Dewpoint has come into existence into South Africa? Do we yet realize how Dewpoint is going to change South Africa like nothing that has come before it? But no one can say that the immense potential of Dewpoint can be sourced from a single individual. No, what we have seen over the last 3 years is the tireless effort of countless individuals across the country build Dewpoint into what it is today, including Dewpoint staff, but more so the wealth engineers that we have at Dewpoint. And again, it reminds us the most important part of Dewpoint, and that is community. You see, it was community that drew Rob to Dewpoint in 2015 when I first told him about Dewpoint. It's the very human nature that we have to uplift ourselves by uplifting our entire community. Dewpoint and its peoples and its systems and its products and all the processes and me shouting at you all the time are all designed to pull South Africans together in communities where we can reduce our risk. How much risk do we live with these days? How much risk? Just yesterday, one of our rank 9 wealth engineers involved in a car accident where someone ran a red light. People tell me they're not going to die from an accident. Oh, bad news. Just yesterday, one of our rank 9s. How many people do we know? My wife was telling me a close friend of ours followed through Sandton City this last week. Followed all the way to her car. She knew that she was being followed, so she called her husband, who happens to work in Sandton City. He comes down and he watches from behind as 3 armed men follow her through Sandton City to her car, get in their car, and start following her home. How much risk do we live with as South Africans? What do we want to do? Well, at Dewpoint, we start to spread and lower that risk. We start to improve our lives, the circumstances of our lives, and we start to uplift everybody in our community permanently. What else is doing that in South Africa today? Ask yourself that question when you go, Brendan, it's too hard. Ask yourself, what else is doing this in South Africa today? They say that the secret to happiness is freedom. But what they don't tell you is that the secret to freedom is courage. We talk about freedom all the time at Dewpoint. It's easy. It's easy to talk about it. But freedom is something that only the rarest of individuals actually ever get to experience. It's the prize that we hold dearest at Dewpoint. Everything that we have designed at Dewpoint has been designed to funnel our wealth engineers towards freedom. But you know that even we're constrained at Dewpoint, even we cannot just give freedom to everybody who enters our system. Why? Because the price of freedom is hard work. There's no way of eliminating that. It's hard work equals freedom. Freedom demands that it is hard won. I love the word demand in South Africa. It's used for everything. We demand. You hear it all the time. Well, freedom gets up and says, you know what? I demand that you win me with hard work. And so, we have seen in South Africa that even hard-won freedom can be lost very easily, haven't we? Well, at Dewpoint, we have poured an inordinate amount of time and energy and thought into designing and innovating a tool that will allow those that are working on attaining freedom to keep that freedom when they ultimately attain it. Now, Tim said to you a little bit earlier, there were 2,500 wealth engineers that are earning. Well, one needs to put that into perspective. In 36 months, we have already put 2,500 South Africans across the country from every walk of life into a position where every single month we pay them an income. Every single month. 2,500 wealth. You guys know already tens of thousands of wealth engineers have come through, or product owners have come through Dewpoint. And we know too that many of them choose not to use the tool. But 2,500 people have chosen to use the tool. And those 2,500 people have already begun to experience wealth. Because every single month, without concern, without delay, without Tim going to China and not being able to pay you, every month they are paid. Now, for these individuals, it might not be a lot of money yet, but we have started to pay some of their monthly expenditure. That's already relief they're feeling. Other wealth engineers that are a little bit further along the road, well, we've made them celebrities. We've put them up on Tell-All Tuesdays and other public events. Then we've got other wealth engineers we're paying even more and are further down the journey, and we have made them leaders in their Dewpoint communities. We have taken what they have suggested to us, and we have started and continue to change our system so that this new life that they have with Dewpoint gets better and better. And then for those that have driven the miles, have put the months and the years in, we've put them on stages around the country. We've taken them away on trips, and we've started to put cars in their garages, all in 36 months. What does this look like in 36 years? What does it look like? Folks, we've done this while we've seen our politics falling apart, our economy falling apart, every scheme and scam and false promise slide into our country, take all your money, and slide back out again. Have we not? And all the while, quietly in the background, Dewpoint has been winning hard-won freedom for its wealth engineers. You saw, and Rob spoke about it a little bit tonight, at the end of 2018, we took wealth engineers on our third XP Rewards trip. 3 in 3 years. Third trip that we went on. We know here at Dewpoint that most South Africans have forgotten or never actually knew what life could actually be like. And so on this trip, again, we insisted that no expense be paid. No expense be spared in this trip. We know that it's on these trips, and this might surprise many of you. You would think by the time you got to rank 9, you'd know this. But we know that on these trips, sometimes for the very first time, these wealth engineers realize that all those disappointments, all those no's, all those cancellations, all those lapses, all the people who laughed at them were totally worth it for the holiday they're on and the life that they now live. Totally worth it. And they realize it on those trips. And so we spare no expense at all. And you know what? For them to realize, and you can see it happening. I've sat in the pool with them. First morning, where's Donnie? Donnie, first morning, and Rulof, and Frikkie, we're sitting in the pool. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm having to hold the 3 of them up because I've had a few too margaritas already. And they are in that, not drunk, but just well-lubricated state, are going, if this is what life at Dewpoint's like, It is totally worth the hard work. It is totally worth it. And for them to know that 12 months later, they will automatically be back again. Well, that's a sensation, ladies and gentlemen, that very few of us are going to have, and the rest of us can only just imagine. But you know what it does? It cements Dewpoint as the only business, the only opportunity, and the only exercise worth spending your time on in 2019. As Lynette said in her video, what is your boss going to give you this year? What is your boss? And therefore, in 2019, I ask all South Africans, but starting with you, that we don't waste any more time on things that are making us poor, but that we spend all of our time. Now listen to that. That's a priority question. We spend all of our time on Dewpoint. Folks, at the beginning of 2019, I don't just punish you, I punish my staff too. I pulled all of my staff, the executive and management team, into our boardroom at the office, the same boardroom that you guys have sat in. And I asked them 2 questions. This was like the 2nd day of January this year. I asked them 2 questions. I said, have we succeeded in getting Dewpoint to South Africans? Have we succeeded in achieving that core vision and goal that we had of creating a tool of financial freedom for South Africans? And did we compromise anywhere along the way in the last 36 months? Now, I had expected to have a deluge of negativity. That's what I normally get. I'm used to it. And I expected them to say, we haven't succeeded, and we did this wrong, and we did that wrong, and that. I was astounded. Not one of my staff members gave me one negative comment. They said, no. In the last 36 months, we have proven, and we have demonstrated, and we have designed the only and the best financial freedom tool for South Africans. And as we have changed during the 36 months as a result of actual experience, we have not compromised on that core and original vision. And so I asked them a second question. Now this turned out to be the tough one. I asked them, do we believe that South Africans, including our existing wealth engineers, that's you guys, do we believe that they have properly understood and fully embraced what we have put before them in the form of the Dewpoint tool? Now that's the uncomfortable question. Even for my staff, that was the uncomfortable question. Because you see, if you can't answer that question in the affirmative, how do you take that message to everybody else? Many of you have told me this evening about people you have spoken to who say, no, not for me, too risky, too that, no thanks, no thanks. You've told me about these people. Whose belief are they buying? What do I always tell you at Dewpoint? I say, put them in front of a presentation, let us do the work. And most of you have come back to me and said, if I can get them to the presentation, they signed up. Why do you think that that's the case? Could it be because I actually believe? Could it be because Rob actually believes? Have South Africans fully embraced what we've put before them? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to force you to answer that question tonight, not even for yourself. I'm probably absolutely terrified to hear the answer. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind you this evening of what you have right now in your hands in the tool that Dewpoint has given you. So, the Dewpoint system creates an unlimited, controllable, permanent, recurring income for anyone who is willing to connect South Africans to Dewpoint. For anyone. Connecting South Africans in the system doesn't require you to sell or to present. It doesn't ask you to carry around stock or application forms. And it doesn't ask you to be involved in or attend extensive and extended product training courses. It says, just press play and let Dewpoint do everything for you. It's a system that creates recurring, not transactional cash from a growing asset that you're able to sell. And when you die one day, it will automatically be transferred to your children and ultimately your children's children, meaning that you right now in your family have a generational wealth creation asset. It's a system that you can use 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, anywhere in the world. And through simple, single connections. Not running back to your friends every month to beg them to buy, not carting stock around in the middle of the night. Single connections. You can create for yourself a lifetime income. The Dewpoint system endeavors to make the average South African 1,000 Rand richer every month for their first 12 months with us. It endeavors to shift South Africans from car renters to car owners in 24 months. It endeavors to transition South Africans from entrapped employment to full-time wealth creation within 36 months. It endeavors to move South Africans from home renters to home owners in 4 years. And it endeavors to make the average South African consumed, mentally consumed, and physically constrained with all the usual constraints and limitations and excuses of life, millionaires within 5 years. Along the way, wealth engineers who pick this tool up and choose to use it will have their work, no matter how good or bad, publicly recognized and praised. They'll be introduced into a community that genuinely seeks and upholds their success. Does this feel like employment? At your job right now, is there a boss who's going to praise your work? Is there a boss or a community that is supporting your success? This is what it does. They will be trained, empowered, and mentored in ways they would usually have had to have paid hundreds of thousands of rands for. And they will begin to experience the trappings of wealth and freedom with trips around the world, cars in their garages, and money in their accounts before they have even considered themselves successful in the Dewpoint system. All the while protected with class-leading, risk-reducing financial services products. And in 2019, the Dewpoint system will once again pursue the objectives of wealth creation for its wealth engineers. It will be expanding its reach into new territories. It'll be introducing new products. It'll be adding new training and new technology and enhancing how we reward and recognize our wealth engineers. These things, ladies and gentlemen, are what you have in your hand right now. Do we see? Do we see what Dewpoint means to us in 2019? During our many presentations, Rob and I stand before a sea of ever-changing faces. It's amazing. You can see it's almost like a shifting ocean that comes before us during our many presentations. We look into the eyes of South Africans from every walk of life who are losing or who have lost everything. And we put in front of them a genuine and truthful hope in the form of the Dewpoint tool. Afterwards, Rob and I stand, you know where we stand by the counter? And we wait in expectation to see who is going to be joining us in this new South African reality that Dewpoint offers. One, where the sun shines every day. I'm going to work out how to move the rain. One, where there's always time left. Wouldn't that be nice if there was always time left over? And one, where they can be truly free. If you can see this evening, ladies and gentlemen, what Dewpoint is and what it does and what it means, then I'm going to ask you tonight. You, the 120 odd that are here this evening, that are going to take Dewpoint into 2019, I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do with Dewpoint this year? Is this a year that your life is going to change? Or is this just another year of suffering and hopelessness? I know many of you, so I know these to be your circumstances. We believe that our 365 challenge is going to find those South Africans who are sick and tired of their circumstances and who want to see change now. What do we know? We know that even those who only pursue get rich quick now have no complaint against Dewpoint. We have given you everything that you need. For those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who are going to pick up the tool and use it this year, we have a promise for you. Dewpoint promises that we will continue to do everything humanly possible to create for you the best in the world wealth creation system so that any and all can pursue freedom this year. It is all going to come down to priority. That's what it's going to be. You will choose this year if it's your last year of bad circumstances or just another one. What we know is that when the pain and shame of the suffering the average South African experiences right now becomes too much, every single South African will come to Dewpoint. Will you make that change before it's too late? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you now know or have at least been reminded of the tool that you have in your hand this year. It's now purely up to you. The Dewpoint team and I, we have a dream for Dewpoint. It's a dream that spans the decades ahead. In this dream, tens of thousands of Africans have had their lives so dramatically changed by Dewpoint that they can scarcely remember what life was like before it. In this dream, Rob and I walk past arrays of opulent cars parked outside our presentations. We call our wealth engineers from around the world to come and speak on our stages, and they arrive in their own aeroplanes. We travel the world with our wealth engineers in planes and trains and ships and automobiles. And in this dream, we see a future filled with smiles, laughter, and happiness. Freedom is the name of this dream. Do we see, ladies and gentlemen, that freedom is Dewpoint? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed the evening.